It started like any other late-night monologue. The lights were bright, the crowd was warmed up, and Jimmy Kimmel was wearing that smug, sideways grin that always signaled he was about to ruin somebody's night. But this time he wasn't joking. The audience laughed at the opening zingers, Biden's latest gaffe, Elon Musk's Twitter rebrand, and a quick jab at Kanye's newest meltdown. Then Jimmy shuffled his cue cards and paused. "This next part," he said, "might get me in trouble." The laughter quieted. He glanced at the camera, then dead into the lens like he was speaking directly to one man. And maybe he was. You ever meet someone who lies so much, even they start believing it? I'm not talking about George Santos. I'm talking about the orange ghost of lawsuits past, Donald J. Trump. Gasps. Laughter. A few claps. But Jimmy wasn't smiling. "See, folks, I've had this for months," he said, pulling out a manila envelope. "Didn't want to show it. Honestly, I was scared to. But after what Don Jr. said about me last week, calling me a washed-up clown and a deep state meat puppet, well, figured it's only fair." He opened the envelope. Out came a glossy photo and what looked like a court transcript. The band stopped playing. The studio fell into a strange, uncertain silence. "Back in 1982, Jimmy said, there was an incident in Queens involving Trump, a teenage employee, and a settlement that was never supposed to see daylight." People shifted in their seats. The camera panned to the stunned audience. Kimmel continued, "If you are enjoying this segment, tell us where you are listening from. Let's know how far our information travels. I'm not saying what happened. I'm just reading what the documents say. And it's all public now. Pages 14 to 22. Don Jr., if you're watching, maybe call your dad before calling a puppet. You might want to ask him why he paid $475,000 to silence a janitor named Miguel." The audience erupted not with laughter, but with a mix of shock and ooh, as that usually follow a heavyweight knockout. Kimmel smirked again, not out of glee, but defiance. "I dare you," he said into the camera. "Sue me." At that exact moment, 2,400 miles away, Don Jr. was watching. Not alone, flanked by two aides, one of his father's lawyers, and a half-empty bottle of bourbon. "What the?" he muttered, spilling liquor on his shirt. "He can't do that. That's illegal, right? That's slander, defamation, treason even." The lawyer sighed. "It's none of those things, actually." Don Jr. stood up, pacing, phone in hand. His voice cracked. No, this is a setup. This is the deep state. I'm calling the cops." The lawyer blinked. "On Jimmy Kimmel?" Don Jr. didn't hesitate. He dialed. 911, what's your emergency?" "Yeah, I'd like to report a national security threat," he said, chest puffed with fake patriotism. "Jimmy Kimmel just committed a felony on live TV." The dispatcher paused. "So do you mean the late-night comedian?" "He's not funny," Don Jr. barked. "He's a Democrat operative in a suit. I want him arrested." By the time the call ended, Twitter was already ablaze. Hashtag Kimmel Leaks. Hashtag Don Jr. Meltdown. Hashtag Miguel deserves justice. And right in the middle of the firestorm, Jimmy was trending at number one. Backstage after the show, Kimmel was surrounded by producers. One of them looked pale. "Jimmy, the phones haven't stopped ringing. Fox is running clips already. You've got 8 missed calls from your lawyer. And the LAPD just called asking if you're harboring confidential evidence." Jimmy blinked. "They actually said that?" "They did." He let out a slow breath. "Good. That means it worked." Meanwhile, Mar-a-Lago was quiet. Unusually quiet. Trump sat alone in his lounge, holding a photo of himself from the 80s, one of his golden years. The TV was on mute, but he saw the headlines. He knew this day might come. He just didn't expect it to be Jimmy Kimmel that brought the whole house of cards crashing down. "Don," he said to himself, shaking his head. "You stupid, stupid boy." The following morning, the media didn't just report on Jimmy Kimmel's monologue. They dissected it, pixel by pixel, word by word. The image he'd flashed for barely 3 seconds, a black and white photo of a skinny young man in a janitor's uniform, was now plastered across every screen in America. Miguel Rivera, age in 1982, 19. Job, night cleaner at a Trump property in Queens. File sealed in 1985. Reopened by a late-night comic? The internet went into full investigative mode. Reddit threads exploded. TikToks recreated courtroom sketches with AI. X, formerly Twitter, was at war with itself, half demanding justice, half screaming fake news. But then something real happened. Miguel Rivera stepped forward. He didn't call a press conference. He didn't hire a PR team. He uploaded a quiet, unedited video on YouTube titled, "My name is Miguel, and I'm done being silent." It started with him sitting at a kitchen table, visibly older but steady in his voice. His gray hair was slicked back, hands folded. "I didn't think anyone would ever care," he began. "I signed that NDA when I was barely 20. They told me if I ever said a word, I'd lose everything. My job, my family, my country. I kept my mouth shut for 43 years, until last night." The video was raw, powerful, and utterly damning. He told the story of being lured into Trump's private office late at night under the pretense of a bonus payment, only to be cornered, harassed, and bribed to stay silent. He said his mother, who worked as a dishwasher in the same hotel, was fired 2 days later. "They gave me $475,000 to shut up. That money never made me whole. It made me hate myself." He held up the same manila envelope Kimmel had shown. "I don't know how he got this, but I'm glad he did." Within 2 hours, the video hit 7.8 million views. By evening, it reached 15 million. Meanwhile, Don Jr. was in full meltdown mode. "He's lying," he screamed into a mic on Newsmax. "Jimmy Kimmel is a glorified puppet. And this guy Miguel is probably an actor. We're looking into that." But it was already too late. The damage wasn't just done, it was multiplying. Lawyers began crawling out of the woodwork. Civil rights groups issued public statements. Even Fox News anchor Laura Ingraham raised an eyebrow on air and said, "If this is true, it's ugly." But Jimmy wasn't finished. That night, he returned to his desk with a calm, almost somber look. "I didn't expect Miguel to come forward," he said. "But I'm grateful he did, because this isn't about me anymore. It's about the people who get bulldozed by power and told to disappear." Then he leaned forward. "And Don Jr., you can call the cops, the feds, or the Ghostbusters. I'm not backing down." The crowd roared. Elsewhere, in a shady suite at Mar-a-Lago, Trump was watching everything in grim silence. Rudy Giuliani sat beside him, slouched like a melted candle. "You have to sue them," Rudy mumbled. "Bankrupt them, or something." Trump didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the TV. His jaw clenched. "They dug it up," he whispered. 40 years, and they still dug it up." Then he stood up, walked over to a dusty drawer, and pulled out a battered leather notebook. "I have names in here," he muttered. "People who helped bury that story. Judges, editors, cops. If I go down..." He didn't finish the sentence, but Rudy knew what he meant. The next morning, Jimmy Kimmel woke up to a strange knock on his door. Not a reporter, not a fan, not LAPD. It was Miguel. He looked nervous, hat in hand. "Can I talk to you?" he asked. "I think I need your help." Jimmy blinked. "Sure. Come in." Miguel sat at Jimmy's kitchen table. He pulled out something wrapped in plastic. "A cassette tape. This wasn't in a file," he said. "I kept it. Thought I might need it someday." Jimmy squinted. "What's on it?" Miguel hesitated. "A phone recording. From 1983. Trump talking to one of his lawyers about me. About what really happened. I thought it was gone, but I found it again 2 weeks ago. And after what you did on TV." He slid it across the table. "It's yours now." Jimmy stared at the tape like it was glowing. "I don't know what's on this," Miguel said, standing. "But I hope it burns down every lie he's built." Jimmy Kimmel held the cassette in his hand like it was nuclear, because, in a way, it was a 1983 recording of Trump allegedly confessing, or worse, coordinating cover-up. It was the kind of thing that didn't just make headlines. It made history. But there was a problem. Who the hell still has a cassette player? Jimmy muttered, pacing his office. His producer, Josh, walked in wide-eyed and out of breath. "You're not going to believe this," he said. "The tape, it's legit. We had it digitized. Audio quality's rough, but clear enough. It's real." Miguel wasn't bluffing. "Jimmy, stop cold. What's on it?" Josh looked around, lowered his voice. "You better sit down." The audio began with static, then a familiar voice. Trump's. Young, cocky, and sharp. "So you talked to the janitor kid? Good. Make sure he signs it. I don't care what he saw or what he thinks happened. I'm not spending a night in jail because of some immigrant cleaning toilets." Then another voice, softer, Maybe a lawyer or aide. You want us to pressure the mom too? Trump again. Fire her. No, wait. Fire her and call it performance issues. Get rid of both. Make them disappear legally. A pause. Some rustling. And if they talk, well, we've got friends at the precinct. They know how to make reports vanish. And if worst comes to worst, throw cash at it. That's the American way. Click. Silence. When the recording ended, Jimmy sat frozen. This is corruption. This is pure evil. Josh nodded. And you have it. On tape. Before the election. Jimmy's fingers tapped his desk. He wasn't smiling now. This wasn't a bit anymore. This was a torch in a pitch-black cave. All right, he said finally. We go live. Tonight. And we play the whole damn thing. But things weren't that simple. Hours before showtime, Jimmy's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. A slow, gravelly voice responded. If you air that tape, there will be consequences. Jimmy blinked. Excuse me. This is bigger than you, Kimmel. You don't know what you're stepping into. Click. The line went dead. Josh ran into the room moments later, holding his laptop. Jimmy, your email's been hacked. Your wife's Instagram, too. Your address is trending on Truth Social. Jimmy clenched his jaw, so he's going full mafia mode. At Mar-a-Lago, Trump was fuming. They have the tape, he hissed at Giuliani. The tape. The one you said was destroyed. Rudy was sweating bullets. I thought it was... We paid the PI to burn all the copies. Well, he missed one. Trump's voice cracked. His ego, bulletproof for decades, was finally bleeding. Call Don Jr., tell him to do something. Or say something. I don't care. Make him relevant. Don Jr. jumped into action. But his version of action was a disaster. He went live on Instagram, visibly jittery, eyes darting. Guys, don't fall for this, he said, barely blinking. That tape? Deep fake. AI. Probably made by, I don't know, Hunter Biden and Soros in a basement. Comments flooded in. Bray, okay? Blink twice if you're being held hostage. This is the worst cover-up since Watergate. The mid-rant, he accidentally flipped the camera and revealed a laptop open to a tab titled, How to Fake a Lie Detector Test. The internet exploded. Hashtag Don Jr. Meltdown 2. Hashtag Trump Tape. Hashtag Miguel Speaks. But Jimmy stayed the course. That night, he walked on stage to a crowd unlike any he'd seen before. It wasn't cheers, it was electricity. Everyone in that room knew what was about to happen would be remembered. I didn't sign up for this, he said softly. I'm a comedian. I tell jokes. But when the truth walks into your studio holding a cassette tape, you don't throw it away. He looked into the camera, to the Rivera family, to every worker who's been silenced. This is for you. He hit play. The tape rolled. The crowd went dead silent. America, for 6 minutes, held its breath. When the tape ended, Jimmy simply said, We'll be right back. But social media? It never came back. The clip went viral in under 30 seconds. The audio, raw and unedited, reached 60 million views in an hour. Reporters from the New York Times to Al Jazeera were quoting it live. Jimmy Kimmel had just become the most dangerous man in late night. The fallout was immediate. FBI agents showed up at Jimmy's studio the next day not to arrest him, but to ask for a copy of the tape. Congress members, even a few Republicans, called for an investigation. But the wildest part? People inside Trump's own orbit began flipping. One former aide went on CNN with an NDA in hand. Another leaked emails showing hush money paid through shell companies. It was all unraveling. And in the middle of it all, Miguel? He was smiling. For the first time in 4 decades. When a king falls, he doesn't just hit the ground. He drags the entire court down with him. And after the tape dropped, that's exactly what started to happen. The first to jump ship was Alan Weisselberg, Trump's longtime financial fixer. He'd already served time for tax fraud, and now smelling blood in the water. He reached out to MSNBC through his lawyer. I was told to bury the 1983 payout, he said live on air. I didn't ask questions, I moved money. But I kept records. And if Congress is opening this back up, then I'm not going down again alone. America collectively dropped its jaw. Records, receipts, names. Jimmy Kimmel may have struck the match. But Weisselberg just kicked over the gas can. Don Jr. tried to mount a defense. He went on Fox News and held up a copy of The Art of the Deal. waving it like a holy book. "My father is a genius," he said. "He's being attacked because he tells the truth and loves America." Tucker Carlson, now exiled to his own online platform, even piped up. "This isn't about ethics. This is about erasing masculinity. Trump is alpha, and the left can't handle it." But it wasn't working, because this time there was a face, Miguel, a voice, the tape, and now a paper trail from inside Trump org itself. Mar-a-Lago, once a palace of denial and champagne, felt like a sinking ship. Phones rang endlessly. Ivanka refused to leave her room. Eric tried to organize a counter-press conference, but was told by staff, "Maybe sit this one out, champ." And Trump? He was unusually quiet, sitting in his office, staring at a gold-framed picture of himself with Reagan. He wasn't thinking about the presidency, or the lawsuits, or the memes. He was thinking about Jimmy, the damn clown with cue cards and jokes, who had just done what decades of journalists, investigators, and political opponents couldn't do: break him. And then came the real twist, a surprise, one nobody saw coming. Melania, that week. The View teased a bombshell guest appearance. First lady or first prisoner? Everyone thought it was clickbait. But on Friday morning, there she was, live, poised, and disturbingly serene. "I am not here to protect my husband," she said in her thick accent. "I am here to protect myself and my son." The hosts leaned in. Melania continued, "There are documents from the early 80s. I found them hidden in our apartment years ago. I did not understand them at the time, but now I do." She produced a flash drive. They show payments, threats, letters. The audience gasped. Joy Behar nearly passed out in her seat. "I do not forgive what he did," Melania added, voice shaking. "And I will not lie for him." Trump saw the interview from his bedroom, alone. He didn't scream. He didn't throw his phone. He simply exhaled and muttered, "It's over." But he wasn't entirely right, because the worst was still coming. That night, Jimmy opened his monologue to thunderous applause. Not laughter, not cheering. Applause. Like they were watching the finale of a war movie where the hero survives against all odds. He stood at his desk, blinking in disbelief. "I'm not used to this much love," he said. "Feels like I just ended a dictatorship with punchlines." The audience laughed nervously. "But it wasn't me," he added. "It was Miguel. It was Melania. It was every person who held the line and said, 'Enough.'" He paused. "And look, Don Jr., I know you're watching. I know you've got a Google alert for your own name. I have one too. It's how I found out someone tried to list my kidney on eBay this morning." Laughter again. "But seriously, they call the cops on me. And I get it. You panicked. You're your dad's attack dog. And now the leash is fraying." Then Jimmy's tone shifted. "But here's the truth. You can't arrest the truth. You can't cancel justice. And you sure as hell can't silence someone who's already been quiet for 40 years. The crowd stood up. Jimmy wiped his eye. "I'll be here all week," he said, trying to lighten the mood. "Assuming I don't get assassinated by the Trump family lawn gnome." Outside the studio, crowds gathered. Not protesters, supporters. People held up signs that read, "Justice for Miguel. Comedy isn't a crime. Kimmel 2028? And somewhere deep in a government building in D.C., a Justice Department official picked up the phone. "We're opening a formal investigation into the Trump Organization, effective immediately. They say when an empire crumbles, it doesn't make a sound, it screams." And by now, the Trump empire was howling. In just 3 weeks, the story had gone from a joke in a monologue to a full-blown federal investigation. And Jimmy Kimmel, the guy who once hosted The Man Show, was suddenly being referred to by MSNBC as a key figure in a national reckoning. FBI agents in Navy jackets marched into the Trump Organization headquarters in Manhattan, escorted by U.S. Marshals. Dozens of boxes, computers, hard drives seized. The image of Trump's golden logo being blocked by yellow tape went instantly viral. That same afternoon, federal subpoenas were issued to multiple former employees, including executives, lawyers, and accountants, many of whom had remained loyal for decades. Some flipped within hours. Why? Because the tape was just the start. The flash drive Melania handed over had dozens of files, handwritten memos, scanned letters from shell companies, names of judges and law enforcement who allegedly helped bury Miguel's case. And worst of all, a ledger. Payments, hush money trails, offshore accounts, it was all there. A roadmap of rot. Inside Mar-a-Lago, panic turned into paralysis. Don Jr. tried to go live again, but Instagram had flagged his account for disinformation and erratic behavior. His backup plan? Launching a new social platform called Cryspace. It didn't take off. Ivanka issued a public statement. I am cooperating fully and have no knowledge of the alleged incident in 1982. Eric posted a blurry meme of Kimmel's face on a rat. No one laughed. And Trump? He was cornered. Jimmy Kimmel didn't want to be the face of any revolution. He made that clear in a televised interview with Anderson Cooper. I didn't set out to expose a cover-up, he said. I was just tired of getting bullied by the dumbest trust fund kid on earth. Then Miguel happened. The tape happened. And suddenly I wasn't making a joke anymore. I was holding a mirror. Cooper asked the big question. Do you think Trump will go to prison? Jimmy didn't hesitate. I think he already lives in one. A gold-plated one, sure, but he's never been free. The truth was always going to catch up. I just happened to be the guy who tripped him. Then came the indictment. Federal prosecutors brought charges of obstruction of justice, conspiracy, and witness tampering related to the Miguel Rivera case. The charges weren't for what happened in 1982. The statute of limitations had long expired. But the cover-up, the payments, threats, and fake documents, those were very much alive in the eyes of the law. Trump was ordered to surrender. And on a rainy Thursday, he walked into a federal courthouse. Head down, jaw clenched, no tie. He looked smaller than ever. The booking photo was released that evening. Not mugshot style. Candid. Unfiltered. Exhausted. Outside the courthouse, protesters clashed with Trump loyalists. But in the middle of the chaos stood Miguel Rivera, silent, holding a sign that simply read, I waited 43 years for this. A reporter asked him how he felt. He smiled gently. Light, he said. For the first time, light. Inside the courtroom, Trump pleaded not guilty. His lawyers blamed everything on deep state manipulation and celebrity propaganda. They claimed Jimmy Kimmel weaponized entertainment. But the judge didn't flinch. The trial was set. And for the first time, the ex-president would face a jury, not for politics, but for the human cost of power. Jimmy Kimmel, for his part, tried to return to normal. He opened his next show with, well, if anyone ever tells you comedy can't change the world, remind them I once got a former president indicted because his son couldn't take a joke. The audience erupted. But seriously, he added, this wasn't me. This was every working person who's been told to shut up, sit down, and take the check. This was for Miguel and anyone like him. He paused. Now back to roasting Elon Musk. And so the credits began to roll. Trump's legal battles piled up. Don Jr. became a podcast host with, for listeners, and a raging caffeine problem. Miguel? He started a nonprofit for exploited workers and began speaking at universities. And Jimmy Kimmel? He won a Peabody. He got offered a Netflix documentary. And he hosted the next Oscars, opening with, before we start, I just want to thank Don Jr. for making me the most dangerous man in America, who knew all I needed was one angry little trust fund kid and a 40-year-old cassette tape. The crowd roared. Spotlights beamed down. The joke had come full circle. But this time, the punchline hit hard. If the story made you stop and think, then don't just scroll, like the video. Share it and hit that subscribe button. Because here on Black Untold Stories, we don't just tell jokes, we uncover truths the world tries to bury.